With 19 years, he crossed the Pacific all on his own. I met Garrett in Whakarawa and he told me about his 30 days alone out on sea. Welcome to Sailor's Life. This is Garrett's boat, a North Sea 27. It's a small boat, just big enough for one person, but it took him safely from Hawaii to Tahiti. Hi, Garrett.
Hello.
Hi, I heard you crossed the Pacific on your own. How old are you?
I'm 19 years old. I arrived to French Polynesia on June 13, so I've been here for 2 months now. Left from Hawaii on May 14, so it took me 30 days, and it was all upwind.
How long is your boat?
27 feet.
It's pretty small for a journey like this, isn't it?
People have done it in smaller boats many times, so for one person it's perfect.
And you did feel safe on it?
Most of the time, yeah. I carried about 40 gallons of water, which was not very much water for obvious reasons. And on diesel, I carried about 30 gallons, and that's maybe worth 200 miles or 250 miles.
So you have extra jerry cans on the deck?
Yeah, but I didn't keep them all the way full because I didn't want all the weight on the side of the boat.
And 40 gallons of water, is that just for drinking then?
It was just drinking. Yeah, I took saltwater baths and that kind of thing. I didn't have enough water to do anything with it but drink.
So what did trigger the idea to go off sailing on your own?
Well, my dad got a sailboat when I was 16, and that's kind of where I learned how. And then I read a book about a 16-year-old boy that did it solo around the world, and that kind of made me want to do the same thing.
I think we will talk about how you financed the boat a bit later. Now about the trip, how long did it take you to prepare the boat?
Hard to say, but for a year and a half I was on and off working on the boat.
And the sailing part, did you learn that then with your dad on his boat?
So I learned pretty much everything on this boat.
This is your little cooker. What kind of food did you take with you, and how do you live out there?
A lot of freeze-dried camping meals. That was the main staple of my diet. A lot of like meal replacement protein powder as well. Lots of packaged Indian food, nuts, dried fruit, that kind of thing.
Did you look forward to a real meal when you came to Tahiti?
Oh yeah, yeah. Milkshake, mint milkshake was the big thing I really wanted by the end of the trip.
What kind of equipment do you have on board security-wise?
EPIRB. I have a grab bag with a bunch of flares and lights, all that stuff in there, along with some water. I have jack lines running up the deck. I have a pad eye in the cockpit that I would clip into when I was sleeping outside. And no life raft. Didn't have a life raft because they're expensive and I didn't have room for it. And that's pretty much it for that.
Did you feel vulnerable sometimes?
I felt the boat was vulnerable at points. There was one period in the cold front towards the end of the trip where I wasn't sure if I was going to make it without something critical breaking.
Guess I wasn't going crazy, and I wasn't wrong about the wind indicator, because last night it literally just blew off, like it's gone.
I don't have any more wind indicator, so I don't know how it went from broken to perfect to completely fall off, but yeah, there goes that.
Did you enjoy the solitude out there, or did you at some points think it would have been better to have crew with you?
I not once thought it would have been better to have crew. The boat's just too small. There's no place for another person to sleep. There's barely a place for me to sleep. I couldn't carry enough water for another person. That's another big factor. Like, it just couldn't have happened. And for the most part, I didn't feel a smidge of loneliness, but I was indifferent. I wasn't dreading being alone.
What was the most difficult thing to cope with on your trip?
Sleep deprivation, by far. You never really sleep soundly, at least not for that long. And at certain points of the trip, even while I was actively doing things, I would kind of just nod off and fall asleep as I'm walking around and as I'm doing things. Body's just not built for that. No one's body's built for that, and it starts adding up. And by the end of the trip, it was getting to the point where it was probably kind of dangerous.
And didn't you have some calm days in between where you could sleep?
Yeah, so I did sleep in the doldrums quite a bit. But even then, you're in the mode of waking up and checking stuff and looking around. So even when you're in calm water with nothing around you, you still wake up pretty often, just because your body's in stress mode and it thinks it's surviving.
What is your way of getting through lows on a passage? Do you have special way of doing that?
Well, sometimes it just sucks and there's nothing you can do about it. But if it isn't actually that bad, then I found that just kind of laughing at things and not giving a shit was the biggest key to not being miserable.
And if you look back now, Garrett, do you think it was the right decision to do that trip?
Yeah, I would have done it even if I was less prepared. Nothing really went wrong, on a big scale at least. I made it safely, so I don't think it was the wrong decision at all.
And was it the way you expected it?
I'd say on average, yes, but it happened differently than how I expected it. I had no squalls. This was the big one. I had 0 squalls in the northern hemisphere. And then I had a pretty big cold front south of there, which was pretty hairy at moments. I had, squalls were into the high 40s, low 50s, big waves. And that I didn't expect. I just kind of expected more bad weather on average throughout the trip, but it was kind of good, bad, really bad, good, more divided than I thought it would be. Phone broke 1 week in, so 7 days in, and after that I didn't have weather or communication at all.
So you just sailed into the blue without knowing what's coming, weather-wise?
Pretty much. And the funny part is that if I would have just motored 50 miles further in the doldrums where I was becalmed, I would have been out of the calm area and just sailed right through, and I would have gotten here like 6 days earlier.
Would you motivate other youngsters to do the same thing?
Maybe more experienced youngsters than I am. I don't think everyone with my level of experience would have enjoyed the experience or would have been safe during it. I think my standards of comfort are pretty low, and I don't really take much to get along and care, but someone that doesn't know that much about themselves maybe wouldn't do so well in a situation like that.
Can you tell me how you managed to make enough money to buy a boat, prepare it for the ocean passage, and finance your time now? I mean, you're only 19 years old.
Yeah, so when I was 16 years old, I was pretty committed to just making a lot of money when I was young. That was my goal. I wanted to be rich by the time I was 30, and that was the plan. And I had about $28,000 saved up by the time I was 17 from working, delivering sandwiches, and investing in the stock market. And I was going to put that towards a house to flip and then invest and do that kind of thing. Then I read that book and I kind of switched my path and decided I wanted to do this. So a big portion of the money came from that. And then once my parents were confident that I was actually serious about doing this, they gave me about a year's worth of college tuition to live for as long as that gets me, which will be a long time because I live pretty cheap.
Now your YouTube channel jumped from 400 to 20,000 subscribers within 2 weeks. I mean, hopefully this can be an earning point. And I guess because your channel goes so well, sponsors already contacted you, you told me.
So that was quick, kind of surprising. Not sure I could say I expected that. But I have had people reach out to me, but not as official sponsors yet. No one sent me anything, so I can't say I have sponsorships.
What would you like to have if any sponsors listen to this?
A dinghy would be good, batteries. Once I get to New Zealand, maybe a new computer would be a good sponsorship.
So I would say companies out there, help him. He's a great guy and he has all the energy and no fear to do these trips. And I bet there will be a lot of great stories to come, huh? Thanks a lot for the interview, Garrett. Have a great time and a safe trip.
Thank you.
Thank you. After 30 days, Garrett safely arrived in Tahiti. He was very happy to meet his family, and I guess after that he went for a really long, deep sleep. If somebody wants to join into an interview, or if you have questions I should ask my interview partners in the future, please just write it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe the channel, give me a thumb up, press the bell, and you can hear many more interesting stories in the future.